This is Mick from Nexus Property Management. This is a video all about a Renters 101. The primary audience are new renters specifically, but realistically, this is information that would be helpful to anybody on either side of hassle-free long-term tenancy, right? That's the goal, whether you're a landlord, whether you're a renter. So let's jump into this. Again, we're looking at 10 tips to make the most of your rental experience, to avoid those headaches, to make things as smooth as possible, to reduce risks. So, number one, utilities, right? Get those utilities into your name as soon as you can, right? You're moving into a new place, so you have you've given your security deposit, you've signed a lease, you've offered up the first month, right? At that point, you know when you're moving in, so there's no need to wait, right? Go ahead, contact those utility companies. In many states here in Connecticut, you can go right online, you can search and find the utility providers by municipality. You can go online, you can set that stuff up, right? So that when the landlord or the property management company come to you and say, hey, you need to switch those utilities over, you've got that first impression of saying, already taken care of, right? Get things off on the right foot. The second tip is to inspect the property thoroughly within the first 48 hours, right? You've moved in, take a look around, make sure everything's working properly. Right? You want to make sure that any issues that you inherited are documented, right? If it's winter and you're not opening a window for a couple months, don't wait until April to realize that the windows don't work, right? We want to know about that as soon as possible. All right, number three, good segue to that. Report any maintenance issues that come up promptly. It's part of your role as a resident, right, in somebody else's home, as you're a steward of that property, right? Yes, you're helping to pay the rent and pay the mortgage, but you're also keeping an eye on it. And that's where you're an important part of the cog, in this relationship. So a big part of that is making sure that owners, landlords, property management companies are aware of any maintenance needs. Your reporting those promptly is essential to this whole process. The fourth is paying rent on time. Now, again, we'll use Connecticut as an example. In Connecticut, if rent is due on the 1st, you then have 9 days of grace. So technically, depending who you ask, you've got 10 days to pay your rent, right? A landlord in Connecticut cannot charge a late fee before that 10th day. But like we were saying with the utilities and putting them in your right name, there's a right way to play this game to show that you respect the process and to make the best impression. So make sure you're paying that rent on the first day of the month. A good example of where this can go south is maybe in your apartment, there's a ceiling fan, right? The ceiling fan is not working anymore. All right, is that an essential thing that the landlord has to take care of? Absolutely not. Right, if you routinely pay your rent on the 8th, 9th, 10th, right, and you offer a service request saying ceiling fan's not working, they might not go for it, right? But if you're paying on the 1st every month, right, and it comes down to something there that's about just your comfort and it's not a necessity, they're much more likely to help you out, right? You want to play the game the right way, make those good first impressions, right, and show your respect for the process. Keep in mind that if you are paying your rent 8, 9, 10 days later, that might be convenient for you, but the landlord has bills to pay as well, right? They've got a mortgage they need to pay, and if they're waiting on you, right, it just doesn't work too well. Number 5 is toilet paper only. Wipes, baby wipes, sanitary wipes, whatever it is, they can't go down into the plumbing. Oil, grease, anything pouring down the kitchen sink, don't do it. Right. We see the most costly issues have to do with plumbing, and it's pipes that are getting clogged. We've got fights between landlords and tenants over whose responsibility it is. Right. Make it as simple as possible. Limit your risk by making sure there's only toilet paper going down, right, into those drains. The 6th is following parking guidelines. Right. In your lease and in your conversation with the realtor, property management company, right, or the owner, there should be explicit guidelines for parking. Right? A quick way to create conflict is parking in the wrong place or creating issues with neighbors. So make sure that you understand that. If it's not explicitly explained to you, reach out. Right? Find out what's expected. We see it everywhere. People get very territorial. This is where my car goes. This is where I go. Don't let it become an issue, and ignorance is not an excuse, right? Go out and find what's expected if it's not shared with you. The seventh is trash and recycling. Different municipalities have different expectations in terms of what's being recycled. Some even trash. There's some places we've seen that won't pick up the trash if they see recycling in it. So you really want to do your due diligence. You can find most of that information online. You can talk to the owner, the landlord, the property manager, right? Find out as much information as possible. There's a theme here, and it's going to wrap up at the end, that we want to be as proactive as possible to show our responsibility and our respect for the property, right? Also, keep in mind, if you're a new renter, there are many municipalities that will collect maybe the trash every week, but maybe the recycling every 2 weeks. So you want to make sure that you have a good grasp of that. If you miss one of those, it can really back up on you and turn into problems. Depending where you are and how much trash you got, you might be inviting pests or some other issues. Make sure you're good on that. Number 8, reread the lease once you've moved in. Right? It's very likely that you read a lease, you signed it, but you hadn't moved in at the point. So realistically, you were reading about a hypothetical place, something that you've seen in a video, you'd walked through at one point, but now that you're in the property, go ahead and reread that lease, right? Put some visuals to that language so you better understand it. We've had times where people have reread it and they just see things in a different way, right? They ask some important questions. They're mitigating risk down the road, right? And again, avoiding that ignorance and confusion that can come. Number 9 is yard maintenance and snow removal, right? In many properties, especially multi-units, the landlord will have something set up for this, but you want to make sure that you ask. You want to make sure that you understand the expectations. If someone's coming to plow, right, you might think that you don't have to do anything, but it's very likely that stairs, walkways need to be treated, need to be shoveled. So you want to make sure that that's good and clear before you see on the news that we're getting 7-8 inches, right? Make sure you have a plan. Again, you're being proactive, which leads us to our 10th and final tip, and it is just that: be proactive. When in doubt, ask, right? You are, again, a steward of this property, right? You're paying rent, you're taking care of it, you're part of an important process, you're adding value, and you're receiving value. So it's all cyclical, and please, please, please be proactive, right? Reach out to the property manager, whoever it is that's in charge of the property, and make sure you have good open lines of communication so there are no questions, there is no confusion, and you can have a long-term, hassle-free tenancy. Thanks.